Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another late night stream. And yeah, it's one of my U-boat streams again. So we slip into the role of a German submarine commander in Second World War. And yeah, follow me into a deep dive on a complete playthrough through the whole war campaign of U-boat. So that means this stream was started in real life something like a year ago, and since then, having started at the very eve of the Second World War in September 39, since then I have been doing mission by mission, sharing all my adventures with you here on the stream. And yeah, always a pleasure to have you guys in. And since a while, I'm also sharing the stream afterwards on YouTube. So yeah, as I used to say, sorry guys, but I don't have the time to do any cutting, so I just upload it completely. And yeah, still there is quite a few guys, obviously, who take a little bit of patience and go through the streams, videos, check them for the good parts. So nice to have you in. And right now we are in the Mediterranean. That's where we are, and yeah, we have been in the last 4 years. You see, now we are end of January 44, 4 years, more than 4 years into the war, having started at Wilhelmshaven, haunting the North Sea and then the closer parts of the Atlantic, finally transferred our base port, home port, to La Rochelle, and about that time we were promoted from the Type 2 to the Type 7, and then we could reach far out into the middle of the Atlantic. And finally we got granted the milk cow support. This is this kind of movable field station which allowed us to reach enemy shores on the other side of the pond. We also successfully finished these missions, then turned our way back. For some while our home port was Bergen, and we did the Arctic Convoys mission set quite successfully. And yeah, as I used to emphasize, I think the Arctic Convoys is maybe the hardest type of sub-campaign that I ran into. After that, we went through the Strait of Gibraltar, which wasn't quite as tough as we all know it from the great movie. Shifted our home port to La Spezia, and since then we are doing the Battle of the Mediterranean. And as you see, we are not too far away. Something like 16,000 tons away from finishing this one as well. So our plan is, when we have finished that one, to leave the Mediterranean and go for the last stand mission set. So at the moment we are in the Mediterranean here, having the job to patrol this area. We just sank a little merchantman of 4,000 tons. And we are in this type of mission where we have to sink 10,000 tons to be successful. So let's carry on with our patrol around here. Let's do it like that. This course, cruise speed, and there we go. Yeah, we didn't yet report that successful sinking. Empire Lakeland. That was the guy that we sank at the end of last night's session. Alright. Now it's 1:15 and let's do some time acceleration. Yeah, if you ask me, this is the best submarine simulation that we ever got. Of course, we do a bit of nitpicking here in the stream chat, always, but I would say it's complaining on high level. The game is really great, and if you ask me, better than any submarine simulation that we ever got up to now. Really love the game. It's completely open world, so you could just go anywhere. The whole world map being relatively detailedly modeled. The shores. Well, actually, you shouldn't just go anywhere you like, but better go where your seniors sent you to. But in principle, you can go anywhere. And yeah, there are real convoys, real trade routes, so missions are usually not scripted. Well, they are actually not scripted, but they really develop from you, being lucky and running into these trade routes, finding convoys or not. So this is part of the immersion, that the game also has its lengths. So there is times when you really have to cruise for days and days and just don't find any target. So fingers crossed that we are a bit faster about that this time. On we go. Yeah, we didn't get full-time acceleration access because we were still close to that lifeboat. Okay. Mr. Schulz, our bosun, is on the watch, so he can't care for the engines. Let him do. Increase the navigation precision. And here, we sent that guy to the Naval Academy. This gives some constant improvement. So shall we do another hydrophone check? I think we shall. So hydrophone check means that there is some standard workflow where the crew brings the boat down to 50 meters. In the background you see the off-watch crew running to the fore compartment, assembling there, giving some additional diving ballast. Here we just saw one officer opening the flooding valves, two guys manning the depth steers, and the ballast tank. Alright, quickly being flooded. Let's see if the stern ballast tank is flooded as well. So here we actually see the seawater rushing in, and so the boat is going down rather quickly. Now the crew is going to bring the boat down to 50 meters, stop the engines there, and then we are going to do some 5 minutes silent listening down there, away from all the noise, the clatter of the waves to the hull. 50 meters under the sea level, there is silence, and the hydrophone develops an enormous range. And within this range we should hear just any moving propeller. Yeah, in good weather, if the sea is not too choppy up there, giving too much noise, we have up to 90 miles radius. It's a bit less right now. That's maybe due to the fact that we have 12 knots of wind speed, which might give a fair swell.
Aktuelle Tiefe 55 Meter.
Hey, removed koala, great to have you in. Yeah, we are still alive, and it is end of January 1944. Yeah, that's quite nice, isn't it? Yeah, great to have you in, removed koala. How are you doing? I think we haven't seen for a few streams. So I was always accidentally thinking that you are from Australia, but yeah. Meanwhile, I know that you are US, right? I remember that you just had some kind of background story you ran into in Australia, which made you give yourself this name. Yeah, hope you're fine. Nice to have you with us. Now let's see, do we get any contact? Discipline is fine, 100%. Yeah, I actually addressed 3 types of different food. What about the water in the bilge? 45. So when we're back to the surface, we should turn on the pump for a little while. Yeah, that's completely uncritical. It's just this constant flow of sneaky leaks, water collecting in the bilge, like in any ship. Listening, but at the moment, there seems to be no contact within this range. Yeah, I have fired 2 torpedoes. When we have quiet weather and we are back to the surface, I might, over the night, get the outside torpedoes into the inside storage. That takes the hell of a long time. No contacts. Let's accelerate the listening phase. And there we go, back to the surface. Now our compressed air is being pushed into the ballast tanks, pushing the seawater back out to where it belongs. This is the fastest way to clear the ballast tanks. If you would use pumps, it would take ages. So here we are again. And yeah, well, let's give it a save. New stream, new save. let's see that we get the external storage to the inside of the boat.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloy? Ja, ich bestätige. Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Herr Kapitän? Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Yeah, this transfer takes a long time.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Haben Sie es als erledigt? Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
Yeah, time acceleration.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet. Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Natürlich, Herr Kaloy.
So this is how it looks like. I always feel that they could do the animation a bit better, but well,
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen. Jawohl, ich kümmere mich darum. Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Herr Kaloy, wir sind aufgetaucht.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
okay, external torpedoes transferred to internal storage. Very good. So we still have plenty of torpedoes left. And yeah, what did I say? I wanted to turn on the pumps to get that bit of water out of the bilge.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
And here we are. Let's do another hydrophone check.
Auf 50 Meter.
Practice makes perfect. So guys, welcome. I just see the number of watches slowly going up. Great to have you in. So, perfectly fine if you just lurk, but I always try to advertise a bit for some communication. So, having some watches is fine, but having a little chat going on is even better. So, I'm so much in awe. I really love this concept of the chat, where you could actually get in contact with people who are an ocean away.
20 Meter.
So don't hesitate to put a hi or thumbs up or some comment into the chat what you think about this stream, what you think about the game itself. Do you play it by yourself, or are you just watching, or are you new in the game and want to get some hints, or are you an old salt as me? But as I said, don't feel pushed. Perfectly fine if you just watch.
50 Meter. Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloi?
Hey, Penrose.
55 Meter.
Nice to have you in. Ah, you're from the US. Great. Just like removed koala. Yeah. How are you doing? I hope you're fine. So we have some time difference. From my point of view, it's a late night stream. It's already 10 minutes to 1 in the morning. But yeah, depending on where you are in the US, it's, well, still something like 7 o'clock or something in the evening, right? Nice to have you in.
55 Meter.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday, yeah. So weekend is coming. And yeah, I called it a day already a few hours ago. But on the other hand, you have more of the weekend and the free time ahead of you than me. Yeah, earlier I was watching the match Spain against Belgium. Quite impressive. Yeah, it was Los Angeles, right? I think it was carried out in Los Angeles. No any contact at the moment. Yeah, in terms of tonnage for this single mission here, we have done a bit more than 4,000 tons with that guy that we sank at the end of yesterday's stream. And we have to do 10,000 tons to fulfill this mission. And if we look at the overall mission, yeah, we only need something like 16,000 tons in total to have reached or finished this mission set, Battle of the Mediterranean. But to progress further, we need to find victims, we need to find prey. And at the moment, there seem to be no enemy ships around, neither men of war, nor merchantmen, nor nothing. Let's give it a bit of a time acceleration.
Anblasen.
Okay, no contact.
Aktuelle Tiefe 30 Meter. Auf.
So blowing the tanks, pushing the water out of the ballast tanks and bringing us back up to the surface. 2 o'clock it is, in game. Yeah, the dark nights are still not working. We always have relatively bright nights. I am actually playing on almost maximum difficulty level. Part of it is having bright nights. having dark nights, but they are relatively bright. It's still a bit buggy, the dark night setting. One other effect of maximum difficulty settings you see here. I don't see the enemy positions marked on the map automatically, but I have to track them manually, which is, for me, from my point of view, it's great immersion to actually try to extrapolate the course of the enemy ships, the speed of the enemy ships by frequent hydrophone checks and finally intercept them. Pretty much like that. Hey, great. Thank you very much for the follow. That's very much appreciated. Wonderful. Thanks a lot. So I would be curious, do you play the game by yourself? What's your experience? Yeah, yeah, nice. Thank you very much for that feedback. I'm playing the game since many years, when it came out and was still in early access, and at the beginning it was pretty basic, but the developers were constantly working on it and really shaped it into a great game. So since, I would say, something like 2 years or something, the game is really full-scale playable and fully grown up. Yeah. Yeah, as I said, I would be curious what your relationship to the game is. If you play it by yourself, or just like to watch. Yeah, that's actually my approach towards the game as well. I'm pretty much interested in this, I would say, fascinating technology back then. This concept of a hybrid propulsion system. And yeah, this very individual warfare in the context of history. Yep. So I'm not playing this game to change the outcome of the war. Actually, you can't change the outcome of the war in the game. You're just a little wheel in the whole gear of war. So even though you might sink a lot of ships, in the end you just don't change anything, and that's good. I wouldn't quite like the game if my action would actually change the outcome of the war, because looking back, yeah, I should think I mentioned that before now and then. Looking back, I'm pretty happy about the outcome of the war. Pretty thankful to the Allies ridding us of that mad guy and his followers. Yes, the past is past, and from my personal point of view, it was going pretty alright. So that's routine now. Let's carry on. Let's carry on with our patrol. Maybe for something like 6 hours. This change of watch now, Mr. Schultz or Boson is on the watch again. Let him do the increase navigation precision.
Wird erledigt, Herr Kaloy.
So that's him there at the map. I love this graphics of the game. I could watch it for minutes. Now let's go on for 2 hours and then we are going to do another hydrophone check. Here we are.
Tauchen
So
50 Meter.
hydrophone check means, like here you see all the off-watch crew running to the fore compartment. 2 guys of the watch group manning the depth steers, and in the next second some officer has to turn up here, open the valves to let the sea stream into the ballast tanks. Here Mr. Grade, this time our chief engineer, opening the valves, letting seawater rush into the ballast tanks, and then the boat is gonna quickly go down. 4 ballast tank, stern ballast tank with a little bit of a delay, which makes perfect sense. And down we go. Isn't that beautiful?
Meter.
Now the crew is bringing the boat down to 50 meters
45 Meter.
to complete silence away from the noisy surface, and here we are gonna stay for 5 minutes. Mr. Strauss having manned the hydrophone, trying to find any contacts.
50 Meter.
And down here the
Schraubengeräusch. Handelsschiff. Peilung 305 Grad.
hydrophone develops an enormous range. There it is. So let's give it a mark on the map. Now we have to
Aktuelle Tiefe.
keep fingers crossed, because often these guys are just fishermen. Let's hope that it is actually a nice big merchantman to sink.
Meter. Aktuelle Tiefe 55 Meter.
Yeah, even if I find a contact, I usually let the crew end the 5 minutes of hydrophone check period, because sometimes you still find more contacts if you just wait a little while. Let's accelerate time a bit.
Torpedorohr 2 gewartet.
Anblasen.
30 Meter. 10 Meter.
There we get back to the surface, and now the chase is open. Let's head towards that contact.
Betrachten Sie es als erledigt, Herr
And
Kalon.
now let's first be positive and assume that this is just a standard merchantman. It would move with 8 knots, which means that after 1 hour it would be somewhere on that circle. And us, I'm gonna man the engines with some escorts and additional crews, so we can tune it up to something like 16 miles per hour, 16 knots.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Hey, not wet, just cold. Great to have you in. How are you doing? Yeah, guten Abend. I do have the DLC, yes. But at the moment I prefer to do just continue my long-term playthrough. And yeah, I am in the Mediterranean, and I think you know, right? You were in the streams when I actually moved up to the Type 9, and then we ran into these problems with the weird leaks, and then that's why I shifted back to the Type 7. Although Weight Loss actually did some tests, and he said that from his tests it looks like that the problems are maybe independent of the mod, and might now be alright. Yeah, how are you doing? Not wet, just cold. End of the week. We are approaching weekend. So what was it? 10 past 8? Yeah, it is. We are late in the war already. It's January 1944, and at that time Germany has pissed off just any other opponents. Not a good idea, as it turned out.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kalon?
Navigation besetzen.
Mr. Grade, please man the diesel. I want you to go flank speed. And now go for that target. Yeah, Switzerland just chilling in the middle, exactly. And Spain also kind of, yeah, try to be neutral. Not quite sure what the role of Spain at that time was, but well, there was Franco, who was also a fascist. So please, fingers crossed that this guy turns out to be a merchant. So it must have moved something like that. And if it has moved only something like 4 miles in this 1 hour, that would be a clear indication that it is just a fisherman. Yeah, there was the Spanish Civil War, which was before the Second World War, like we all know from Ernest Hemingway novel, Whom the Bell Tolls. And then in the war, I actually thought that Spain was fighting alongside with Germany, like Italy, for a while, but yeah, not quite sure what the status was in this phase of the war. At least for Italy, the Italian people, they drove away their fascist leader Benito Mussolini, and at that point, when Benito Mussolini was kind of dropped by the Italian people, the Germans invaded Italy. So at that time it's not an ally anymore, but it's occupied by Germany. Yeah, but just like I said, and I just not quite know what the status of Spain was back then, and Portugal as well. Yeah, here we are. Let's do another hydrophone check and see where the guy is right now. Off-watch crew running to the fore compartment again. Depth steers being manned. And who's gonna open the ballast tanks? Mr. Schneider, probably. Yeah, so he opens the valves so that the seawater is now flooding the ballast tanks, and we are going down quickly.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Exactly, but humans aren't machines. They were just not able to keep that up. Exactly, good point. Yep. That's what the guy completely forgot about. And I think he forgot about a few other things than that. And here we are, 50 meters. Propeller stopped. And now we should get a second data point from that one. Fingers crossed. Ooh, that looks good. That looks good. The guy is moving with... Wow. That's a fast mover. That might be a tanker or something. So, very promising.
Meter.
Very promising. Yeah, of course. I agree. And it's good to have an eye on that one.
Aktuelle Tiefe 55 Meter.
Yeah, a lot of planning about that. And also for First World War. I mean, finally, it was about humans. Did you ever read a remark that, what was the name of the book in English? Nothing New on the Western Front? All Quiet on the Western Front, yeah. So that's an impressive book. That, I mean, It's a bit of a downer. It really brings you down to read that book. But if you ask me, yeah, I didn't watch the movie. I just read the book, and I was so fascinated that I'm a bit afraid of watching the movie, because this is my experience, that if I have had been reading a book and watching a movie afterwards, the movie kind of overrides the imaginations that the book had created in my brain. And that's why I'm a bit reluctant watching movies with books that I really loved. Well, loved for this one, maybe love is not quite the right term, but it's so fascinating.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 5 Grad.
I think if you have read that book, everything has been said about war. So, did we get another contact?
Jawohl.
Indeed. Okay, so now this is kind of unclear. This could be this one as well. Oh man.
Befehle.
Anblasen.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Second World War, of course, but First World War, this fighting in the trenches on that battlefront between France and Germany,
30 Meter.
with the gas attacks and everything. And so it's so vividly described in that book.
10 Meter.
Yeah, I think I once read that some guy smarter than me wrote down something like that. World War One was the first time that industrialization hit the battlefield.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Jawohl, Herr Kaloy.
I don't quite believe this is a bit of a gamble that the guy is going like that. But let's see. Let's go for one more hour. Let's give it a save, by the way.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe gebrauchen.
Wird erledigt, Herr Kaloy.
On we go. I'm pretty curious what I get with the next hydrophone check. Here we are.
Tauchen auf.
Checking.
50 Meter.
Yeah, the American Civil War. That was, earlier, more traditional, But I mean, if you imagine back then how they did fight, they had these fighting lines of fusiliers, these guys with the muskets just lining up in a row. So there was this, on the one side there was a row of guys with muskets, and on the other side as well, and they were just firing at each other. That's so, yeah, unbelievable.
25 Meter.
Yeah, the muskets, and I mean then the artillery, the cannons, the big guns with grape shot, that must have been devastating.
Geräusch. Handelsschiff. Peilung 300 Grad.
45 Meter.
Having field artillery with grape shot, yeah. I mean, later in the wars, the soldiers were allowed to dig trenches and hide in the trenches, but back then, at the time of the Civil War and earlier, like, I mean, it was the same tactics they had in the European Napoleonic Wars, I think.
Aktuelle Tiefe.
Just rows and rows of guys with muskets shooting at each other. So, anybody remembers that song of Frankie Goes to Hollywood?
50 Meter.
Ja,
Okay, very good. So that really looks like my dead reckoning is pretty alright. Oops,
55 Meter.
Wie lauten Ihre
didn't
Befehle?
work. Please give me that spot. Give me an X. And the other one.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloin?
So in 1 hour, yeah, okay, this one is a fisherman, definitely. It only went 4 miles in 1 hour, so that's a bit of a slow mover. But for this one here, we had that contact, that contact, that contact, so we are moving beautifully into their ways.
Torpedorohr 3 gewartet.
Yeah, if we go for 20 minutes, we should end up there. And after 20 minutes, they should end up there. Roughly. Give it a bit of a time acceleration so that we get back to the surface.
35 Meter.
Let's give it a save.
Aktuelle Tiefe 20 Meter.
Look how beautiful this is. The sea. Now flank speed again.
Torpedo
15 minutes.
Torpedorohr 5 gewartet.
20 minutes. Let's go for 20 minutes, roughly.
Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
So here we are. Oh yes, there we have the smoke column already on the horizon.
Kleine Fahrt voraus. Alarm! Handelsschiff in Sicht. Peilung
there.
280 Grad. Denkt alle an eure Ausbildung. Bleibt ruhig und konzentriert.
Yeah, guys, you can step away from battle stations. And yeah, we are gonna dive. We are right in the way. Let's go to periscope depth and then give them an unpleasant surprise.
Kurs setzen. Kleine Fahrt zurück.
So, Mr. Arlos, please advise the seamen at the depth steers to optimize depth keeping so that we don't broach the surface while being on periscope
Torpedorohr 1
depth.
gewartet.
There they are, alright. At something like minus 80 degrees. Yes, aren't they? I love that. I really love the graphics, like here when you dive and yeah, don't have the good view with the periscope. I really love that. The guy was moving pretty fast with at least 10 knots. Angle on bow at the moment. Would be pretty shallow. the distance, estimated distance at the moment would be 5 miles, which would be 8,000 meters, 8 to 9,000 meters. Yeah, I usually never report spotted ships because I'm always afraid that me sending the radio message might give away our presence. Even if the enemy would not be able to figure out our code, they might still recognize that there was somebody very close sending a secret signal. And what else could that be than a submarine? And even just receiving this kind of message, the enemy might become suspicious and become aware of our presence. So this is why I never report these spottings. Yeah, you could actually change it in the settings, but I like to have it in nautical miles. The only thing that annoys me a bit that I can't switch the distances here to nautical miles. I would still regard this as kind of a bug. So if I tell the program to have the distances on the map in nautical miles, they should also do it here. So you always have to have this factor of, what is it? 1.8 to estimate that. I'm not very good in doing calculations, just in the back of my mind. That guy is moving relatively fast.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 280 Grad.
And there it is, coming in.
Kleine, voraus.
1 mile. Yeah, all right. Yeah, there is a bit of a swell, so we don't have good eyes onto the target. There it is. So my first guess is that it is a C3. Let's see. What do you think? So I'm always curious on your estimation of contacts. So Colin, I don't know if you're already in, but yeah, actually Colin is one of you guys being in the stream regularly. It's always great to have him in, and he is really the guy who easily could determine just any type of ship. So my guess is that it is a C3. What do you think? No, it's not a C3, it's a coaster, isn't it? It's this one, yep. So this guy is well armed. So that means, yeah, if it were an unarmed merchantman, I would just get to the surface and try to scare them away from the ship by threatening to sink it. But this guy has deck guns, and these deck guns have actually more firepower than my tiny deck gun that I do have. So we have to sink that one manually. So now it's 55 degrees. Yeah, exactly. It's a Liberty. Hey, Colin. Yeah. Torpedo time, and nice to have you in. Good evening, Colin. How are you doing? It's a Liberty, yes. Relatively quickly moving. So from my figures, I say it's moving with 10 knots. Let's see. So the angle on bow would be something like 40. Hey. Why did I lose that contact? Sorry. And the distance by now. Roughly. Yeah, a bit more than 1 mile.
Entfernung 3196 Meter. Gegnerlage
Yeah, a little bit less than 2 miles.
Geschwindigkeit 10 Knoten.
Yeah, so let's see that we do a smooth torpedo attack on that guy. Torpedo tube 2 needs maintenance. Yeah, it's 14 knots. Yeah, we do have quite a bit of a swell. Now, for the Mediterranean, that's relatively rough. I mean, in real life, the Mediterranean could become pretty rough, but in the game, so in the game, I'm cruising the Mediterranean now since something like 2 months, and it always was relatively quiet, although it is winter. So, have anybody of you guys in this stream have practical experience what the weather, the wind speed, and the size of the sea, of the waves, is like in winter in the Mediterranean?
Aktualisieren. Entfernung zum Ziel. 213
35 degrees. $53.
Alle Maschinen stopp.
Was it? 60. One and four. Two and three should be all right. Oh, sorry, no. Don't quite get what you mean, to be honest.
Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Entfernung 1,622 Meter.
Velocity 10. What do we have? 2 and 3. They are well maintained. So what's the draught? 7.5.
Rohr 2 bewässern. Schussunterlagen aktualisieren. Gegnerlage 9-3, Bug rechts. Los! Rohr 3, bewässern.
Rohr 3 bewässert.
Los! Ja.
Oh, well. Let's see if this is gonna be a good one.
Der Torpedo ist auf halbem Weg. 40 Sekunden bis Torpedo einschlagen.
Hmm.
30 Sekunden.
Oh shit, shit. This is gonna be a mess. It's gonna pass behind the stern of that one.
Der Torpedo ist auf halbem Weg. 10 Sekunden bis einschlagen. Fehlschuss.
Mm-hmm.
40 Sekunden bis Torpedo einschlagen. Ja. 30 Sekunden.
So one miss. Fingers crossed that this is not gonna be a dud. Serious damage, very good.
Rohr 2 geladen.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
So 2 torpedoes fired, 1 hit. Let's hope that this 1 hit is sufficient to bring them down. I have the impression that it's already listing over the stern.
Funkspruch erhalten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy is calling for help, probably. Yeah, it's starting to sink over the stern and listing to starboard, I would say. Yes, yeah. Yeah. I actually have been sailing the North Sea quite some time ago with my uncle. He had a little sailboat, some, I don't know, 9 meter or something sloop. And I once crossed the channel with him. So we went to Dover with that little boat. That was quite some amazing experience. Hey, see, the guy is going down, isn't he? And I remember that out there in the North Sea we did have quite some rough sea for a while. We were sailing out there for, I remember one day that we actually did have something like a wind speed of, was it 7 before or something? And that was pretty tough. particularly as we had to sail against the wind to tack. But for the Mediterranean, I also have no idea, no practical personal idea what it would be like.
Kurs setzen.
Torpedorohr 2 gewartet.
Die Besatzung evakuiert das Schiff.
Okay, they are evacuating. Very good. So if the crew is evacuating, there is nobody left
Diese Koordinaten setzen.
to man the deck gun.
Kurs setzen.
Jawohl.
Yeah, there is still a guy there, but I'm pretty sure that this is just a fisherman. Probably not worthwhile to follow. Yeah, we're gonna check on that one later. That might just be some artifact.
Anblasen. Aktuelle Tiefe 10 Meter. Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen. Auf Dieselmotoren wechseln.
Alright, one miss, one hit. That's a good ratio.
Wir sind aufgetaucht.
And that single hit seems to have sunk them. Okay, they are still too far away. And at the moment, it doesn't look like the guy is really sinking, although the crew has abandoned the ship. Okay, they're going down. They are going down. And with this, we have the mission completed, obviously. Mr. Harrow Hinrich, please man the radio and let's report the success to the headquarters.
Telegramm gesendet.
Yes, so now we are almost, just 10,000 tons away from having fulfilled the whole Battle of the Mediterranean mission set.
Kleine Fahrt voraus. Alle Maschinen. Stopp.
Yeah, let's get the officers on board. And keep on going.
Kurs setzen. Halbe Fahrt voraus.
Yeah, so many lifeboats, but that's for these merchantmen with armament. So this merchantman was well defended. It had quite some deck guns, and these do have a big crew. Those merchants which don't have any armament, they have just something like 4, 5, 6 people, 10 people, just leaving 2 lifeboats or maximum 3. But these armed merchantmen, they have a much larger crew to make them, yeah, to enable them to actually fight back.
Torpedorohr 5 gewartet.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Yeah, what was that? About the Sydney? Never heard of that one. So, what was it about?
Herr Kaloin, wir sind aufgetaucht.
Okay, torpedoes reloaded. Everything's fine. What about the food? Still alright. Discipline is good. Ah, okay. I heard about that one. So that was down there somewhere out of in the Pacific, right? That event was happening off New Zealand. Is it right? Do I have it correctly on the radar? Indian Ocean. Yeah, okay. I think I saw some documentary about that event on YouTube. So it's lunchtime in game. All right, there we are. Change of watch. Maybe let's go for 4 more hours and then we are gonna do another hydrophone check. We still have a few torpedoes in the stores, so
Unterstützung.
I would pretty much like
Herr Kapitän.
Wie lauten Ihre Befehle, Herr Kaloi?
Navigation besetzt.
to sink 1 or 2 more merchantmen.
Unterstützung.
So let's give it a hydrophone check around here.
Tauchen auf 50 Meter.
Yeah, sorry for the little noise. I'm having a few peanuts.
Auf E-Motoren wechseln.
Meter.
Going down to 50 meters and check whether there is any contacts around with the hydrophone.
Aktuelle 45 Meter.
All right. So if you order hydrophone check, the crew follows a standard workflow, brings the boat down to 50 meters, stops the engines and does 5 minutes of listening. 5 minutes of silent listening.
Ich könnte etwas Hilfe brauchen.
Which gives an enormous range of detection. So within a range of 80 or 90 miles radius, we should be able to detect just any moving propeller. But allow me to be AFK for 1 minute.
Meter.
Right, back again. Thanks for your patience. Now, let's see if we have any contacts in range.
Ich erwarte Ihre Befehle.
Yeah, Mr. Hinrich, he's our first radio man. Hey, guns are shooting. How are you doing? So where are you? Around here. I'm streaming from the Frankfurt area in Germany, and yeah, has been pretty warm again the last days around here, but right now down here in my little office in the ground floor, it's quite all right. So did you also have some extraordinarily hot spell? Yeah. I could imagine that Vienna was also terribly hot. Around here, right now, it's, well, okay-ish. It's still pretty hot, but 2 weeks ago we had really kind of, yeah, it was something like 40 degrees, more than 40 degrees around here, and that's completely unusual for, yeah, Frankfurt area. And so right now it's only something like 30 degrees, which is also relatively warm for this area.
Mein Tagwerk ist getan.
No contact. And well, I once visited Vienna, or actually I have been there twice, and I would say Vienna is not a city that you would like to experience when it's searing hot. So no contacts, obviously. We still have a few torpedoes left, so I would pretty much like to get rid of them. I mean, by fire them into a few more merchants. Yeah, did you hear this? That was the compressed air being released into the ballast tank to actually push the water out. Okay, sorry, I'm not that firm in history. I have no idea what Baldwin the Fourth actually looked like. Yeah, I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you. That's a bad thing.
Kurs setzen.
Bestätige.
Yeah, let's see that we set our course like that and give it a save and see if we run into some more merchantmen. So now this is the patience game again. Yeah, it's evening. There is still some hint of red in the east. The sun has set at that time. Yeah, keep in mind it's winter. And there we go. 10 o'clock is change of watch.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Bestätige.
And one more hydrophone check.
Tauchen auf 50 Meter. Aktuelle Tiefe 5
Yeah, it's
Meter.
midnight
Wechseln.
and we are going down. And listening again.
25 Meter. Meter.
And listening again. On a range of more than 90 miles, we should detect just any
50 Meter.
moving propeller.
Torpedorohr 4 gewartet.
55 Meter.
Now let's see if we hear something.
50 Meter.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the captain is eating peanuts noisily. Yes, sorry. I'm gonna stop it. I'm kind of spoiling the immersion with that one. So, you're right. I'm gonna stop having the peanuts. And yeah, I just needed a little bit of a late night snack.
55 Meter.
Yeah, Penrose, yeah. Yeah, you can only put one more sailor to the hydrophone. So what I think is that you finally have two headphones, and two headphones might hear more than one headphone. That's maybe the idea.
Ja?
Yeah, let's see what is the difference. So if we have two guys on the hydrophone, it's 90 miles. If we take away that one sailor, the distance, yeah, reduces slightly. Yeah, I don't know, by 10 miles, but more, 15 miles. Yeah, I don't know what they actually gave the crews of the submarines to bear all that strain and stress. Do you really think that they were drugged? Yeah, I was considering that. You always hear a lot guesswork about that. Yeah, my dear grandpa, he was just infantry. He was a heavy machine gun squad petty officer, and he never said anything about that they got drugged to bring better performance or something. I don't know. Yeah, I once heard, or actually here and there, now and then I heard that meth was actually, crystal meth was actually used in the war here and there to
Ja?
keep the people performing. Yeah, vehicle crews, yep.
35 Meter.
Yeah, maybe also fighter pilots.
15 Meter.
But I really don't know which part of these
Herr Kapitän, wir sind aufgetaucht.
informations are urban legends and what is actually true. So no contact again. Let's carry on for another maybe 6 hours. Let's go. So 2 o'clock will be the next change of watch.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
And on we go. So let's do the next hydrophone check at 6 o'clock in the morning. Here we are.
Navigation besetzen.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Down we go.
Tauchen auf 50 Meter.
Isn't that beautiful? In the east we have the day casting its first lights across the horizon.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5 Meter.
Auf E-Motoren wechseln.
And down we go. Listening.
Herr Kapitän. 25 Meter.
Yeah, well, I was kind of ambivalent about cold waters.
45 Meter.
On the one hand, I was fascinated by the concept because it reminded me of a game back in the 90s. And yeah, there is actually this
50 Meter.
let me see what's the name. I don't own it, but at least I do have it on my wish list. Sea Power, I think. So what I heard is that this game Sea Power is kind of similar to Cold Waters.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 60 Grad.
Yeah, it just never took off. Yeah. Yep.
50 Meter.
Mm. Yeah, Sea Power is more general, so you don't exactly slip into the role only of a submarine commander like in Cold Waters. So in Sea Power you're taking the role of much more different types of ships. It's just not that personal deep dive yet that you have here in UBoat. So, I remember a few months ago somebody in the stream stated that UBoat is actually The Sims on a submarine. So I pretty much love these details, that you really have the crew and that you're not operating a machine. You could press the buttons on the keyboard and usually in most simulations then instantly something is happening. But here you don't right away control the machine with your keyboard, but you control the crew. And the crew is operating the machine. And this is what I really love about the game. That feeling that you are controlling people and not just pulling levers on a machine. No, there is a contact. let's finish the hydrophone check and then see what this contact is about.
Herr Kaloin?
Torpedorohr 1 gewartet.
Yeah, the crew lets the hydrophone check take 5 minutes and then they're gonna stop it. Yeah, blow the tanks and get back to the surface. Radio transmission.
Getaucht. Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung. Jawohl, Herr Kaloin.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Now, what I usually do is let's assume that this guy is just one standard merchantman, then it would move with 8 knots. So meaning that after 1 hour it should be somewhere on that circle. And for us, we are gonna go flank speed. After 1 hour we would be there. Let's see. Yes, you mean that's a great game. It's Wolfpack. I guess that you are talking about Wolfpack. But no, Wolfpack is not VR. But Wolfpack is very much like you describe it. You can control a submarine in team. Yeah, that's just great. The game is still pretty basic, but it's so great how you could actually control. You really have to. It's much more detailed in terms of game mechanics and submarine mechanics. You have to control, yeah, the different dive, ballast tanks and everything. Yeah, not sure. I don't have any VR set, so I don't know, but I might have heard about something like that as well. Yep. Yeah, Wolfpack is great. It's just so very challenging. You really have to deep dive into the game to understand the concepts. And so when I actually checked it out, there were so few people actually playing it on the servers, so that it only made sense when you made an appointment with friends and play the game together. But you would never run into sufficient guys just by chance to set up a submarine crew. Too challenging, too special. Yeah, too much aficionado-like. But for me it worked. It's a great game. I hope that the developers are gonna keep up. Just read that they were about to introduce a corvette so that one team of players could play the submarine and the other team of players could slip into the role of a kind of corvette, so that the submarine could actually fight against the corvette or vice versa. And that's just great.
Diesel besetzen.
Ich benötige hier etwas Unterstützung.
Yeah. I had been playing Destroyer. Only point is that to me it felt a bit too static in comparison to U-Boat. Like in U-Boat you could actually walk around, like here you slip into the role of a guy and you could freely roam through all the submarine. And in Destroyer you have kind of very static stations which you could just man. So I had been playing Destroyer a bit, but it just didn't catch me. I just didn't dig it. So here we are. Let's do another hydrophone check to see where they are right now. Guys, now fingers crossed that this is not just a fisherman, but a decent target.
Aktuelle Tiefe 5
Auf
Meter.
die Motoren wechseln.
Schraubengeräusch. Peilung 355 Grad.
25 Meter. Aktuelle Tiefe 45 Meter.
Meter. 55 Meter.
Okay, now fingers crossed. Oh no, that's a fisherman. In 1 hour it was just sailing 4 miles. So no merchantman and particularly no man of war would be that slow. So let's finish the hydrophone check and continue our search pattern.
Anblasen. Auf Dieselmotoren wechseln.
Herr Kanoi, wir sind aufgetaucht.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. By the way, if I look at the time, it's 2:30 around here in Frankfurt. Well, I'm not living quite in Frankfurt, but something like 60 kilometers west of Frankfurt. But around here it's 2:30, and yeah. Although it's Saturday tomorrow, I need to turn in right now. I'm still gonna have to do some work tomorrow. Yeah, maybe just 1 or 2 hours, but still, and I would like to start with that pretty early. So, guys, it was a pleasure to have you in. Ganze shooting, that was a beautiful chat that we had. Penrose Singularity, great to have had you in. Yeah, not wet, just cold. Always great to have you back in. Colin, yes, you had that. You are the spotter, actually. You could just recognize any ship. So thanks for your input and the confirmation of that, Liberty. And removed koala. I don't know if you're still there. You dropped into the chat very much at the beginning. And if you're still listening, all the best wishes. Well, actually to all of you guys. And see you tomorrow. I'm gonna have another stream. Bye bye.